Hello, this is Jerry Temple. Today I'm going to give you a presentation on our very special 1979 Cessna 340A. This one qualifies for basic med because A, it has 310 horsepower. It's non-Ram modified, no Ram 4, 6, or 7. And just to remind you, the basic med rules are airplane has to have a takeoff weight of no greater than 6,000. This one's 5990. 6 seats or less, which 340 has, and you have to fly under 18,000. We can fly all day long, IFR at 17 or VFR at 17.5. So this one does qualify for basic med. It does have Vortex generators, which you're probably thinking they can increase the gross weight, but I'll get into that in just a moment. Just some special features of this airplane: 183 gallons, so we have the tip tanks, aux tanks in the wings, and a nacelle tank behind the left engine. 3-bladed heater propeller, certified for no and ice. That's full boots, hot props out, and a hot plate on the windshield. Aft fuselage strakes, they're a great mod. We'll talk about those. Lots of baggage up in the nose and wing lockers. Great visibility for passengers and crew. The airplane again is factory, has air conditioned, no and ice. Basic med qualified. So let's look now at some of the specific features of the airplane. Looking at a great panel. The owners of this airplane have put some good money into the panel. I listed this airplane in 2017. We didn't sell it for a few reasons back then, but we're listing it now. That's all that matters. It has the avionics in it now that it didn't have 3-4 years ago. You're looking, of course, at the primary Garmin 500 with a primary flight display and a multi-function display. Excuse me again, let me say it again. Primary flight display and multi-function display. Garmin 650 and 750 touchscreen. The EDM 960 is on the left, so all the gauges, manifold, RPM are all been eliminated. It's all in the one display. Full set of co-pilot instruments: airspeed, attitude, barometric altimeter, backing up the electric one on the pilot side, DG, vertical speed, turn coordinator. Again, on the pilot side, backup instruments you can see are the steam gauges, as they're called. Panel looks good. Nice layout, good placarding. I like good placarding. Yokes look good. They can be leather covered if you wish. Let's look a little closer at some of the features. Again, the Garmin 500 electronic flight display with the large primary flight display and the multi-function display. Top radio is the Garmin 750 and 650 touchscreen. The STEC 55X autopilot is underneath the 650. Coming back over to the left side, right above the attitude indicator, the original attitude indicator, is the annunciator panel for the autopilot. So the different modes you're flying in, heading, altitude, navigation, you can just see quickly. You don't have to look down at the autopilot itself. Directly above the primary flight display are two interesting features. Those two little rectangular indicators are quick reference if something is wrong with the graphic engine monitor. Again, the JPIDM 960. So rather than going over and having to interpret what's the problem, it's an immediate indication of something that you need to be advised of. The horizontal black line that you see above the primary flight display is the low thrust detection system. And if you look down at the prop levers, you'll see a couple little red lights on the prop levers. They're quick reference for any problem with the graphic engine monitor, the JPIDM 960. So rather than having to look over all the time, if you got a little bit of a quick warning, like any other warning, you could see what it is and then go over to the primary display and check out what's wrong. The horizontal line that you see right above the primary flight display to the left of the N number is called the low thrust detection system. There's these little probes underneath the nacelle, kind of like the PDOT tubes for airspeed, that sense the airplane yawing. The airflow into that tube is disrupted, and you get an indication of an arrow left or right. And then down on the prop levers, you have a flashing red light that tells you that's the engine. So I'm an experienced multi-engine instructor, but I'll take all the help I can get. It's a nice feature, low thrust detection system. Like PDOT tubes, it's also heated to protect against icing. So when you see on the spec sheet the low thrust detection system. That's what it is. Your backup instruments that were originally in this airplane are on the left there. Airspeed, true airspeed indicator, attitude indicator, barometric altimeter. On the left is the annunciator panel, different colors. Some are warnings, some are just advisories, some are just nice to know something's turned on. The 406 ELT electronic locator transmitter is underneath the annunciator panel. As I said earlier, the yokes are in great shape. We can powder coat them if they needed to be painted, which these don't, or cover them with leather. You see the Garmin 750, 650 touchscreen navigators. The S-Tech 55X is at the bottom of the stack on the left there. Real clean, good placarding. I really like the airplane. And you don't see too many 340s with this full 750, 650 in the Garmin 500. Close up again, 650, 750, the autopilot. Graphic engine monitor, EM JPI 960. Your audio panel is then below that. And the next unit is the Avionics EX500 multifunction display. So you have two multifunction display. This one, the Avionics, and the one associated with the Garmin 500. On the multifunction display, the color radar is displayed. Originally it was a monotone green radar, but now it's in color because of the graphic engine monitor. Traffic and other features can be displayed on the Garmin 500, the 750, or this EX500. Check my spec sheet for some of those details. Again, at the bottom of the image, you can see how nice the placarding is. It's all redone panel. The prop sync that used to be up by the tachometer is now down underneath the autopilot. And all your other features are like the low fuel lights that you see up at the top at the 1 o'clock position from the graphic engine monitor. Clean panel, full co-pilot instruments, airspeed, attitude, barometric altimeter, backing up the electric ones on the pilot side, turn coordinator, GG, rate of climb. Here's our quadrant. You can see the low thrust detection system warning lights on the propellers. The fatter throttle, left throttle, is part of the go-around procedure. So let's say you get to minimums and you're hand flying and you get down to your decision altitude and you want to make a missed approach. There's a little button you'd press with your thumb. Gives you a pitch up attitude indicator on your pitch up on the attitude indicator, and it's just a quick reference. You're not having to start pressing buttons and figuring out what you're going to do. Again, nice placarding. The one that says on the left, heat off, that LTGS, low thrust detection system. They have a charging unit, an electronic charger there, and the autopilot and electric trim. At the bottom of the quadrant, you'll see the cowl flaps and the alternate air. So if we have some icing in cruise, we can go to alternate air for the engines. 3 axes of trim. The big one that you see behind the left throttle is elevator, manual, and we also have electric elevator trim. And then manual trim for the nose, yaw, left, right, and the round knob you see that says roll is your aileron. Very sensitive, real sensitive on the aileron trim. We're in the back of the airplane looking forward. 340A has 6 seats. Most people run them with 5. Take out number 5, which is back by the door. Let's count the seats. Pilot 1, co-pilot 2, aft facing left number 3, aft facing 4 is number 4. Pilot, the one by the door, is number 5. And number 6, sometimes called the boss's seat or spouse's seat, would be the one we could be sitting in at this moment. Intercom system throughout the airplane. Carpet is very good. Like lots of airplanes, the carpet comes up 1/3 of the way on the side panel, side wall, and leather armrest and fabric. Curtains are fabric. A lot of people will take those out. They're kind of out of style. Save them, put them in a plastic garbage bag, save them for the next person. Seats, all crew seats, adjust, armrests. Passenger seats adjust up and down. Excuse me, I misspoke. Forward and aft, and then the armrests are fixed on the outside and the armrests pop out on the aisle. Headrest adjust so you can slide the seat forward and back. Recline, those are the chrome switches or levers you see underneath the seats, and adjust your headrest. Emergency hatch you see on the right side of the airplane should be checked at each annual inspection. We have all gray leather, looks pretty good. Gray belts, headrests, adjusting seats, carpet real good. You can see the mats there. Here we are with the table open on the right-hand panel. Again, you see curtains, emergency hatch, seats that adjust, all the armrests. An armrest and table is stowed for takeoff and landing. That's just common sense. Lots of visibility for both crew and passengers. So it's a very open, non-claustrophobic airplane. People aren't going to get in this and think it's a little puddle jumper. Or if they do the first time, then you'll have a long line of volunteers wanting to fly in your airplane, where you pull your car up to the side door, put your luggage in, and no one cares what size toothpaste you have in your suitcase, or perhaps a little Swiss Army knife in your pocket. Looks real good. Again, you can see seat number 6 right there, the forward-facing right side. So if you have some little toddlers, small children, they can be in car seats on the aft-facing seats. Mom can be sitting in number 6. Table for use of computers, reading, kids playing, drawing, food, toys, games. Above every seat is a reading light, fresh air, and an oxygen port. You can see one right above the seat number 4 there. Looking back, again, table open, stowed for takeoff and landing. You can see the armrest. That is seat number 6, boss's seat, spouse's seat. So if you're up front flying in the pilot seat, perhaps your spouse or your boss is back here at number 6 working on the computer or dealing with children. If seat number 5 by the door is taken out, a lot of families do that. And mom's gear, diaper bags, other stuff that she needs to get to for the children are right on her left there by the door. We'll talk about the baggage area in the back in just a moment, but you can see it's easy to get to if you needed to. Here's our baggage area. I always say food, toys, games. So up in the nose, which carries 300 pounds, you'll usually bulk out before you weight out. You want to have stuff in the airplane, food, toys, games, computers, cosmetics. Nobody wants to open their suitcase in the hotel and have shampoo over their dress that they were supposed to wear that evening. That's not good. So we load up the airplane's nose, flies nice with the nose heavy, then the wing lockers, and then we put stuff in the back here that we need to get to in flight. You can see some tie downs. We can get some bungee tie downs if you need them. Most of the time you don't. We're outside now. We'll talk about some of the features that I mentioned in the introduction. This airplane is certified for flight in the new Icing. What that means is not suggesting you fly in the Icing, don't be silly, but fully booted, so you see the boots on the outer wing and the wing stub, as it's called, or the inner wing, the entire tail empennage, vertical and horizontal stabilizers, heated propellers, everything is heated, the static ports, pitot tubes. On the pilot side is a hot plate on 310s and 340s. So let's talk about some of those features a little more in detail now. If you need to turn on the propellers, let's just say we're going along at 18,000, 20,000, need to descend through 3,000 or 4,000 feet of cold, wet air. Turn our pitot heat on. This one has co-pilot instruments, so there's 2 pitot tubes, and static ports are on the fuselage further back behind the cabin door on both sides. So you have 4, 2 for the pilot and 2 for the co-pilot. Fully booted, hot props. Hot props basically work like this. There's an outer and inner pad on each one of those boots. So when you turn on the hot props, the 3 inners heat up for 30 seconds. Then they cool down, the 3 outers on one side. So let's just say we're going to test this on the ground on our pre-flight. It's supposed to start on the right side of the airplane. So we go up front, turn the battery on, turn the prop heat on, and run back out onto the right propeller. But who cares in flight? Who would care what size it starts on? 3 outers heat up, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. They cool down simultaneously. The 3 inners heat up, and it flips to the other side of the airplane. So back and forth between the 2 sides, with the outers heating up for 25, 30 seconds, then cooling, and the inner pads heating up for 25, 30 seconds. And we continuously use that. Boots, if we need to use the boots, there's a switch where the vacuum pumps that normally suck the boots down into the closed position like you see them now are deflated, inflate. How it works was first the tail light inflates for about 10, 15 seconds. You can't see the tail at night inflating, so there's a light on the annunciator panel that says SURF, S-U-R-F, for surface. So the tail inflates, then it goes down, then your wings inflate, and then you'll see those go down. There's an ice detection light that shines on the left boot, so at night you can see any ice on the left wing. We'll assume it's on the other wing. Pretty good assumption. Hot props, hot plate on the windshield. You also have the 35,000 BTU heater/defroster. Excellent heater defroster. You'll rarely use the hot plate. I didn't say never, but rarely. Most of the time, again, if we needed to send through 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 feet of cold, wet air on the way down, get the defroster going, get the windshield nice and warm, your toes won't freeze, and most of the ice just slides off, plus you're descending normally to warmer temperatures. So certified no one ice, one more time, fully booted, heated propellers, fuselage ice protection plates. We may see those in another image here that protects the side of the airplane when the props throw some ice. 100 amp alternators, which an airplane like this would have anyway because of all the equipment like air conditioning and no one ice. Hot plate on the windshield, heated defroster, 35,000 BTU heater/defroster. Wide stance landing gear. We'll talk about that a little bit more in another image. LED taxi light that you see on the nose gear. Separate landing lights which extend from the tip tanks. Again, great visibility for pilot and co-pilot. Large forward windows and side windows. Paint's real strong on this airplane. And this airplane also has the Keith electric air conditioning. The giveaway of those little intakes there right on the side of the airplane just after the pitot tube. One is air in, air out. The Keith electric air. Sometimes called JB, Parker Hannafin, changed his name several times. It allows us to hook up a power cart and run the air conditioning while you're inside the FBO waiting on your passengers or filing a flight plan, whatever you need to do. Doors closed, airplane's cooling. With the Cessna factory air, the right engine must be running, therefore you're in the airplane. Here again you can see the heated propeller, and you can't see the fuselage ice protection plate, but you can visualize what it is. Good visibility for the pilot, co-pilot, side windows for the passengers. Let's talk about the fuel system. The tip tank is the main tank. Sometimes that gets confusing when people think of Piper single and twins or the Seneca or Beech Barons. But in Cessna twins, the tip tank is the main tank, holds 50 gallons. The forward portion of the tip tank's a fairing with a strobe, and the aft portion carries a pump in there, but 50 gallons. Within the wings are 31.5 nacelle gallons. So let's count it, total 163. 50 in each main, 31.5 in each of the aux tanks. The aux tanks are actually two rubber cells. One's a 20, one's 11.5 with an interconnect. To you, the pilot, it's an aux tank, singular. To the mechanic, they're aux tanks, plural. Then sitting behind the left engine, we'll see that in another image, is a 20-gallon nacelle tank, often referred to as a wing locker tank, nacelle tank. That's 183 total. The Cessna factory air is not on this airplane. Again, we have Keith Air, which allows the wing locker storage area behind this right engine to be larger. This shot shows the propeller wash going back over the horizontal stabilizer. So early in the takeoff roll, you have a nice live elevator, pitch your yoke, nice and live early in the roll and late into the flare. With some tip tank airplanes, a couple feet above the ground, if you pull the power off too quickly, you'll lose the blast of air going over the horizontal stabilizer and have a sudden arrival. Boom, you're on the ground. So this one here, a nice feature is you have good pitch control early in the rotation, going down the runway, and late into the flare. Polished spinners, 100 amp alternator that's there on the left side of what we're looking at inside the nacelle. Fully booted, inner boot and outer boots, and the tail entirely booted. Here you can see the ice detection light shining. That's a little round light that you see there on the right below that little strake unit. That's not the strakes associated with the aft fuselage strakes, which if you look in the back of the airplane, you can see under the Y, the Yankee. We'll talk about those. Cowl flaps are in the open position. We close those in cruise. We open those after clearing the runway. So as we climb, cowl flaps are open to let all that hot air out. And then in cruise, we close them and open them up as we again land. This image shows us several things. You can see the wide stance landing gear, taxi light on the nose, propellers wash going over the horizontal surfaces, hot plate on the windshield, visibility. Let's talk about the wide stance gear. Let's just say you need to land on a short, narrow runway. But obviously, we think of if the runway is short, it's not going to be real wide. So let's make it a short runway, a narrow runway, and a direct crosswind. But you've got to get in. Short runway, narrow runway, crosswind. So head out of the cockpit, know your power settings, know your airspeed. Nice steep approach, steep approach. Let's say you're at full flaps when appropriate. Steep approach. Head out of the cockpit, you know what the airspeed and power settings are. We're going to drop the wing into the wind. Let's say the wind's coming from the left side of this airplane, from your left side. Drop that left wing, and as soon as that left main touches down, you quickly level the airplane, get the other main down, and good, strong, effective braking. The wide stance gear gives you a stable airplane. It doesn't get antsy like some Cessna singles, Cirrus, Mitsubishi turboprop, where the gear is so close to the center line of the airplane. Just a nice feature. You don't want to go off the narrow runway into the gravel or mud and drop a gear and ruin an airplane with engine stoppage, propeller stoppage, paint. What if you just had picked up the airplane from the paint shop, new interior, new paint, new engines, new propellers? It'd be a disaster. Looks great. Nice shot here. Here in this image, you can see the aft fuselage strakes. Many people think they're one of the best bang for the bucks in general aviation. They provide several things. Most important, in a Cessna 340, at say cruise power of 65% at 18 to 21,000 feet, you're going to gain about 8 or 9 knots. Manufacturer says 10 to 12, I'll say 8 or 9, which is still a significant percentage of true airspeed. They give you a little better ride in turbulence, and they also increase your single engine rate of climb. Think of the feathers on an arrow, trying to keep that arrow going straight when you shoot your bow and arrow like Robin Hood. If the airplane yaws, besides the indication that you would have on your instruments and the low thrust detection system, the strakes naturally, like feathers on an arrow, want to get the airplane straight. So I'm going to give you some therefores. Therefore, you're using left rudder. You see the large left rudder. Therefore, you're using less rudder to straighten out the airplane. Therefore, less drag. Therefore, greater single engine rate of climb. Excellent modification. Aft fuselage strakes. Large tail on this airplane. You can see the Vortex generators. I'll get to those VGs in a second. Large vertical area. 50% of it is rudder. So for crosswind taxiing, crosswind landings, and just general good yaw control, single engine practice with a big trim tab also. So let's just say we are going to practice some single engine work. We're climbing. Let's make it in cruise. I slowly pull back an engine. You're going to react. You're going to straighten it out with rudder. And then we're going to use the trim tab to alleviate the pressures and have a nice docile airplane. My personal style, and about a mile out on final, 3/4 of a mile, I get rid of the trim. I like to fight it, if you will, the last portion of the approach, so I have a good feel for landing, and plus I don't want a lot of trim in when I pull the power off and the airplane might yaw on me, especially on a narrow runway. So aft fuselage strakes, large vertical area, 50% of it's rudder. Again, you can see where the prop wash comes over the horizontal surface. Wing locker storage. So we're looking at the right side now. So let's work our way from the spinner back. Spinner, propeller, engine. And because we don't have factory air sitting behind the right engine, the storage area, wing locker storage, is increased. On the other side, we would have the 20-gallon nacelle tank sitting behind the left engine, so the storage area is not as great. Pretty airplane, 2700 Yankee, based at Centennial Airport in the Denver area, in a heated hangar for many, many years. A long ownership period. No one keeps a bad airplane. Long ownership period. Shop that maintains it is a very good shop. Worked with them before. They do a lot of twin Cessnas. Good shop at Centennial Airport. And it's easy to get to Denver, Colorado from any place, so it can't be too difficult. In the introduction of this presentation, I mentioned basic med. I mentioned Vortex generators. Wouldn't have a twin without them. They're an excellent modification. This airplane is non-ram, 310 horsepower, just the way Cessna made it, but it does have the Vortex generators. So to qualify for basic med, can't be a ram mod because the STC changes the gross weight permanently. Maybe ram's working on that, but today, watching this presentation, once it's a ram modification, the gross weight is increased. 5990 is what we have to have, and the 310 horsepower allows for that. However, when the Vortex generators were introduced to the public in the 90s by Charles White at Avionics, there's a couple other companies that also produce those. This particular Vortex generators was Aeronautical Testing System, ATS, which merged with a company called Boundary later. These are all competitive to Charles White Microaerodynamics. The VGs, when put on, and if an airplane didn't have them, we can put on in a couple days, but they're on this airplane. 90% of twin Cessnas and 95% would have them. The VGs with option 2 increased the gross weight 300 pounds. That's why they sold so many kits and made the 340 so popular. It went from having useful loads of just a few hundred pounds to where a family of 4 could operate. So Vortex generators changed the gross weight from 5990 to 6290, too high. Here's what we can do with paperwork, and the only tool you need is a ballpoint pen. I've confirmed with both ATS and Micro, but ATS in writing, that we can revert from option 3. In the case of ATS, it's option 2, but it's the increase of 300 pounds to the gross takeoff weight. We can go from option 2 or 3 back to option 1. There's 3 things we need to do with a ballpoint pen. Airframe logbook entry says what we're doing. Form 337, which is a modification. It says we're going from option 2 or 3, in this case option 3 with ATS, back to option 1, and revise the weight and balance form. And number 4, if, I say if the airspeed indicator or indicators were refaced for option 3, back to option 1. So 5990 is achievable. Logbook entry, Form 337, weight and balance form, airspeed change if necessary, and you have the gross takeoff weight of 5990 complying with basic med. Now, guess what? VGs are still on the airplane. They didn't go away. So all the benefits of the Vortex generators remain available, but we've operated under the option 1, which would be 5990. Okay, let's summarize what we've talked about here today. Airplanes at Centennial Airport in Denver, maintained by a good shop, long ownership period. No one keeps a bad airplane for a long time. Heated hangar, one of the lowest time 340s in the world with about 2,300 hours. Less than mid-time engines, about 625 we'll call it. Excellent panel, Garmin 500, 750, 650. Traffic system, ADS-B. Radar, weather data link, storm scope. It's got a lot of great things in it. I'm not sure on that storm scope. Let me take that back. No, it's a WX500 storm scope. Sorry about that. Wide stance landing gear, polished spinners, good paint, great visibility, LED lights on the nose, and I'm pretty sure on the landing lights. Here's how we do business. Give me a call, answer your questions. The airplane can be shown at the Centennial Airport in Denver. On my website, under the button called Buyer Services, is an outline titled Domestic Sales Procedures, and there's one for International Sales Procedures. You want to read that. It's the steps we try to follow to sell twin Cessnas. But basically, we can verbalize an offer, but at some point we put it in writing on an offer to purchase form. It's not a final purchase agreement, and it says so. If accepted by the seller, the owner, 5% deposit gets placed in escrow. No money is given to the seller or me. Once we have accepted offer and deposit, we put our heads together and set up a pre-purchase event, which is a combination of a buyer's valuation flight, test flight if you will. And if that's satisfactory, you authorize a pre-purchase inspection at a qualified shop within reasonable distance. Jokingly, we're not going to fly this airplane from Denver to Bangor, Maine. We won't do that. We bring the mechanic out from Bangor, Maine for a lot less money, treat him real well. So go over our area on my website, jerrytemple.net. Can't get easier, myname.net. Look at Temple's Tips, which are articles I've written over many years on different airplanes and subjects. Under Buyer Services, again, look at the outline titled Domestic Sales Procedures. Also Acquisition Services. That's where we formally support a buyer under a contract. And under Inventory would be the airplanes we currently are listing. So there's no maybes or perhapses. They're all formal listings. Sometimes we may have an accepted offer and deposit, but we don't take the advertising down until the sale is completed. Give me a call. Happy to speak with you. I speak Twin Cessna fluently and look forward to talking to you. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks.